Hello, I'm Rodney Whitaker, Director of Jazz Studies at the College of Music at Michigan State University. I'd like to welcome you all to Jazz Spectacular, and I'd like to give a thank you to our sponsors, the Jazz Club, who's helped to keep the music going during the pandemic. And I'd like to also say a special thank you to Leonard and Sharon Tabaka for their support of Jazz Spectacular. For this, we thank you.
Carmen Bradford was born in Austin, Texas, and raised in Altadena, California, to the legendary cornetist composer Bobby Bradford. And world-renowned jazz vocalist, composer, author Melba Joyce. Growing up, Carmen was heavily influenced by R&B music, listening to the likes of Gladys Knight, Chaka Khan, Aretha Franklin, and Stevie Wonder. At the age of 16, Carmen pulled out a Billie Holiday album from her father's record collection, and her ears were ready for a shift.
He treats me oh so mean. My man, he don't love me. He treats me awful mean.
At the age of 22 years old, Carmen was discovered and hired by none other than Mr. William Count Basie, and was the featured vocalist in the legendary Count Basie Orchestra for 9 years, and continues to make appearances with them to this day.
He's the boss. Now that he's the leader of the Basie band.
Carmen was part of 3 Grammy Award-winning albums with the Basie Band, including her performance on How Do You Keep the Music Playing from the album Big Boss Band, which featured Carmen in duet with Mr. George Benson, shown here at the Newport Jazz Festival in 1990.
And since we know we're always changing.
In her illustrious career, Carmen is well documented on recordings, both making guest appearances and projects under her own name, some of which include Finally Yours, With Respect, and Home With You. Carmen currently tours around the world working with big bands and symphony orchestras. The show A Century of Ella was created for Carmen by Mr. Jeff Tyzik, and another show, Ella and Lewis, Carmen shares the stage with the great Mr. Byron Stripling. Carmen also does numerous dates with her trio. In the fall of 2018, Carmen began teaching at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music as part of the Roots, Jazz, and American Music faculty as the jazz voice teacher. We are honored and pleased to welcome the great Miss Carmen Bradford.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Michigan State virtually. I'm trying to get my act together here. Okay, there we go.
Wow, you're gonna make me cry. Oh my gosh.
That's what you do to me most of the time I hear you singing.
Oh my
like,
goodness, where did you find all of that?
Hammer calls me a stalker, but he knows me well enough that I'm not. But he's like, luckily I know you. So man, we are so happy to have you here, and of course we're absolutely bummed that you can't be here in person. When Rodney told me who the 3 guest stars were for Jazz Spec last year, I was like, what did I do to get this all? My favorite singer, my favorite trumpet player, my favorite drummer all at once. I was like, it was a big overload. So hopefully we'll get you here. But we'll just start with, the normal question. And how are you? It's been
Right
a
now,
journey.
I didn't realize you were going to make me cry.
Oh,
That was really wonderful. That was just
oh, good.
beautiful. Thank you so much.
Glad you liked it. And like I said, I was up all night cutting things because I said, oh, we got to have that. The one thing I let go long because I didn't see it at first, and then with all the interviews with Foss making you try to laugh while you're singing, so I had to let that go.
And here I am doing a ballad with George Benson. He was always like that with me, always.
Oh, that is beautiful. So,
Just, uh, just a boy in man's clothing. In men's clothing. You know what I mean?
yes,
A
indeed.
brilliant man.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed.
So, we'll just start. There are a few MSU connections, mostly all through the Basie band with you.
Um,
Reggie Thomas used to teach here, and
okay.
then Chris Johnson used to be in the band. But the one that's still in the band is what our youngest, Marcus Howell. How's it been going with Marcus Howell in the saxophone
Oh,
section?
well, you know what? I haven't seen Marcus in quite a while.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I stopped working. My last concert was March 1st, and that was with Byron. And I can't even remember. I think it was the Florida Symphony.
Okay.
All I know is that I was in, that's all I remember is that I was in Florida. But I think a little prior to that, the Basie band, we did our Live at Birdland album, which I think is coming out in a few months.
Okay.
And that was the last time I saw Marcus. What a sweetheart he is. And isn't he a
Well,
fine musician?
oh my goodness. I love him to death. We love him here and so proud of him.
So
And
wonderful.
actually, we missed you at that recording by one day
Did
because
you?
we were out for the Jack Rudin competition at Jazz at Lincoln Center with Michigan State. So we bought tickets for the whole band to come out to Birdland to see, Rudin Marcus and stuff. We embarrassed them really well. That was fun. And
Oh, that's
Prof
great.
Whitaker came and sat in and stuff. So I was so happy to see you, but you had to share and get to some other things. So we missed you by one day, but
Yeah, I think it was the symphony gig with Byron.
exactly. Right. So we'll get you next time. So
Yeah, I hope
so
it is.
I've just been doing tons of research, having so much fun learning more about you.
Thank
We
you.
first met and you were coming into actually Michigan State. That I wasn't working here at the time yet, and you
Mhm.
had a concert with Wes Anderson, and so they sent me to pick you up, and that was the first that I really knew about you. And I remember you got off the plane, I picked you up, I got you to the car. You said, I don't mean to be rude to you or anything, but it was a late night, an early flight. I kind of want to just sleep on the way home. I was like, cool, you do your sleep or something. I don't know, there was like one little question or something. And an hour and 15 minutes later, we were there, and he's like, I never got my nap. And I was like, I just heard some of the most amazing stories of my life. I was on cloud nine. It was so fun. So that's when I first met you.
I told you so many things I have never shared with anybody. It was like being on a psychiatrist's couch, a wonderful psychiatrist's couch. It was great. I
I
had
get,
so much fun.
I get that a lot, and lips are sealed. So always. So this could be the easiest interview on the planet. All I have to do is probably say 5 names, and an hour later we're done. And but I've heard all those stories, and I really struggled with this, what to do with this interview, because I know that there's a lot that probably haven't heard some of these stories. So maybe we'll sneak a couple of them in. But I watched about 4 or 5 hour, 2-hour interviews with you over last night getting my research done, and they're all out there. And I would just say, I love the way that Byron Stripling interviews, and he gets to the point and covers a lot of ground very quickly, and very concise. So go check out the interviews on some of these great stories, but we'll get a couple of them here. So I'm going to go a couple different routes with you. So I don't know why we always are trying to classify and about influences and genres and all this. Where do you come from and all this kind of stuff? And all I know, so it was kind of fun with you because I didn't have any prior knowledge. All I knew is when I sit and listen to you, there's an emotional response that is like, this is how life should be. This is how every singer should sing. I don't care about individuals sound like Carmen. And but you know, and so you talk about your influences, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But and we covered some in the bio. But to me, it all came down to one thing. It's the blues, and like the blues. So like a lot of times people ask you, and I would have had I not known or seen the interviews. I was like, you have to have a church background, and no, you didn't. You didn't grow up in the church, but you know, when I hear it's like, well, that's really weird. But then, you know, you have an R&B influence, you have your mother's jazz influence, you have all this stuff. What is the common thread? And to me, it's the blues. And you remind me of someone like Sweets Edison. Like Sweets is going to put the blues. He'll put it on anything. The Haydn Trumpet Concerto, he's going to put the blues on that. And that's what I hear in your voice. So I wondered if you agree with me and what the blues means to you and how it affects the way you sing. I mean, is it conscious? Is it not conscious? It's just who you are. Can you address the blues in your singing?
Wow. Well, I don't put it in everything, do I? Is it everything?
No, and it's a good thing. Please keep doing it.
Well, I don't think it's necessary in everything.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm all, my mother gets upset when I say that, you know, I didn't grow up in church, but I didn't. You know, we went to church, but we weren't, you know, I wasn't in the choir, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but my friends in church, their grandmother was over the choir, and she gave a lot of solos to her grandchildren. I'll just say that. And when I saw that that wasn't going to change, I didn't want to try and be in the choir anymore. You know, if I wasn't gonna get to sing. And you know, I figured at, you know, 8 and 10 years old and 11 years old, if you say, well, I can sing, and the choir director says, that's sweet, honey, now just move on down with the sopranos, then okay, well, you missed your opportunity because I ain't staying. You know, you have to forgive me, I'm having a hot flash, it'll pass shortly.
All
But
right.
But you know, I think of Jeff Tyzik because, you know, when I do symphony dates with him, trumpet player, conductor, symphony conductor extraordinaire, the maestro Jeff Tyzik, who wrote this Ella show for me. I noticed if I added too much to those Nelson Riddle arrangements and the arrangements that he wrote for me, I always got just a little side look. And he had shared with me very casually, you know, that he didn't like singers that added a lot of runs and riffs to these symphony arrangements. It's just, they're already enough. And he's correct. They were already enough. So I only tried to sing just a little tiny note here and there, you know, as to not get in the way of these beautiful arrangements. And you know, of course, Ella Fitzgerald sang all of these. Can you imagine? I just have to tell you this because I'm getting ready to do something for Jazz at Lincoln Center, teaching this 4 classes about Ella.
Okay.
And I'm terrified about it. But, you know, I don't know why my allergies are killing me too. I find it so interesting to have been alive when these standards, this great American songbook was written. You know what I mean? When she went in the studio and recorded those songs, she was the first one to sing those. They may have been written 2 or 3 months prior to that, you know? But she's the one that made them famous. And of course, since the composers were alive, of course you're going to sing the melodies the way they want them, because they want their melodies sung as they were written. Because I thought to myself, now why is she singing that so straight, just like that? And then, of course, on later recordings, over the many, many years that she sang, of course, she stretched out on so many things. But of course, it had to do with her phrasing that was just incredible. And we're not even talking about her improvisational skills and scatting and everything. I'm just talking about the actual melody. and adding something here and there. And her voice was just so full of everything, just everything. And to be the beginning of everything. Oh, baby, you
Yep.
know? So
Yes.
of course, as a reminder of that, when I got up on stage and I sang that Ella show, man, it's like I am still traveling with my hat in my hand. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's just terrifying for me. Every single show, it does not get easier. And I don't feel good until it's over.
Wow.
I don't want to say I'm not enjoying it, because so many of the arrangements that Nelson Riddle wrote for her, and I know many other arrangers wrote for her, but those arrangements in particular that are on that show, the string parts are so unbelievably beautiful, and the incredible symphony players that I've been honored and blessed enough to perform with, they are just the finest in the business, you know, just masters of their craft. So that's going on, and I'm waiting to come back in, and I am almost in tears and just on the verge of weeping, and sometimes can't control it. It's like, screw it, I'm crying. You know, it's just overwhelming. I cannot express to you how doing that show and paying tribute to her just tears me up.
That's beautiful. And a couple follow-ups on that, one of our other guests, John Faddis, I know that with his students, he requires most of them to get all of the Ella songbooks, because she also does the verses. And when he's
Right.
trying to teach them, as I'm sure is your point, to learn them, so many people mess the melody up, and he's like, just learn the melody first. You know, and he's like, go to the Ella songbooks, check all of those tunes out.
That's it, because she's the only one you're going to get it from where it's just pretty accurate and sticking close to the melody, just adding a little bit here and there, and the rest is just her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just phrasing and just, oh man, just incredible.
I mean, Ella, I never got to see Ella. I was in the car ready to go to Chicago, and it was late, and I was just getting out of work. I was like, there'll be other times, and there wasn't. And I will never forgive myself, so, because she's like my favorite. I actually had to pull off the side of the road the first time I heard Blue Skies. I just like,
Oh,
you know, the video where she takes out everybody in Duke's band, and
oh, it's just,
with, you know, Roy comes down, and okay, he goes, and then Paul Gonzalez comes up, she deals with him, he goes back. I mean, Ella, I mean, what are you going to say? And we know, you know.
I didn't mean to stray from your question.
No, please, no.
But I just, she just changed my life, and I can tell you about that a little later if you want, about laying on her bed and
Exactly. Go
crying
ahead.
after the, well, you don't want to, I don't want to mess up your questions.
No.
Sorry.
It's jazz, so go.
Well, it must have been about 8 months after she had passed away, and Carmen Lundy was appearing at Catalina's in Hollywood. And I'd gone to see Carmen the night before, and then the morning after that, she called me and said, "Hey, Carmen, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, nothing. What are you doing? What's going on?" And she said, "Well, I need you to meet me at Ella's house right now." And I said, "Well, Ella who?" She said, "Fitzgerald." And I said, "Well, what's going on?" She said, "Please, just come right now. It's really important. Come right now." I said, "Okay." She said, "Right now." I said, "Okay." Have it. Hopped in my car, drove to Beverly Hills. I'm sorry, I don't know how to make that adjustment on my computer. I'm sorry, that dinging is there. So got to Ella's house, and the front door was ajar. I knocked on the door, nobody answered, and there were a lot of cars parked on the street. So I knocked a little bit and I said, "Hello?" And I pushed the door open because I heard voices in there. And so I stepped in, and I had never been in Ella's home, but it was just old Hollywood straight up. Mansion, you know, beautiful spiral staircase, beautiful, just lovely. And to the left, she had a foyer, which was large. And then there was a staircase right there. And then to the left, there was her dining room. And there was a couple of furs on the table. And there was a chinchilla fur laying with the fur side on the table, so you could see her initials
Mm.
inside, on the other side, on the satin side, and had her initials on it. And then I leaned a little bit more, and it was beyond that was her kitchen. And there were a bunch of gray-haired old ladies in there just tearing through her crystal and china. And I said, oh my God, this must be an estate sale or something.
Mhm.
And then as soon as I looked back, Carmen was at the bottom of the stairs, and I said, hi. And she just reached her hand out to me. And so I hugged her, and she took my hand and led me upstairs to Ella's bedroom. And of course, her bed had been stripped, and there was this big um, barrel with a lot of her, I don't know, just undergarments in there. I don't know what they had planned to do with that. But anyway, there were empty perfume bottles on her dresser. And then Carmen pointed like this, and she pointed to Ella's bedside table. And on the bedside table was my jewel case. It's the only thing in the room now. Okay. My jewel case to my CD, where I recorded Mr. Paganini. And she had a little tiny boom box that only fit one CD. And I opened it up, and my CD was in there. Man, oh man, you talking about some tears. Oh my God. Listen here. I fell out on her bed, Max, and just cried. I could not pull myself together. I was just so shocked to see that.
What a tribute.
So then Carmen said, okay, sit up now. Let's sit up a minute. And she wiped my face, and she said, let's just take this in.
Mm-hmm.
She said, how wonderful is it that I'm here with you and I'm witnessing this? Who's going to believe this?
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't know, but I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you called me.
How precious.
And she said, Carmen, this is a big deal. Our queen was listening to you at the end of her life. Are you digging this? Are you checking this out? And I was crying and talking. I'm sure she didn't understand a thing I said, but it just really changed my life at that point, because I was just kind of burned out. This business is so hard.
Yep.
People only really get to see you when you got that pretty dress on and it's sparkling and everything, and your hair is done, and the musicians are great, and you're smiling, and everything is, you know what I mean? But man, night after night, and I don't mean that I'm not enjoying it when I'm up there.
Sure.
I have such awful stage fright, though. It's just a challenge to sing every night and be creative every night and leave your heart on the stage like that every single night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in just a little bit of a funk about what I wanted to sing, and could I possibly sing something else at this late stage in my life? Could I try and do R&B since I really love it? That's right, jazz people. I love R&B. I mean, I love jazz, of course, I love them both. I would say more jazz than R&B now, but I mean, as far as making a living, but it was just a defining moment for me. And I said, okay, Miss Ella, you are making this clear for me, and I'm gonna give it my best now, and I'm gonna do better.
Right.
I'm gonna work harder at being more creative and working on my improvisation, and because I didn't scat even for the longest. And then suddenly I did. Something just clicked, and all of a sudden I heard the chords differently. I heard different notes in the entire chord and could sing it. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. Look what I have been missing out on. That's really how I felt about it. And you got a call?
Nope.
Okay. between Shelley Berg, jazz pianist Shelley Berg, and Jeremy Montero, jazz pianist out of Singapore, both of them who I adore, who painstakingly, and I'm saying painstakingly because I'm sure it was painful for them while I worked through what I was hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And the situation with Jeremy is that we were performing in Singapore. He had hired me. And each night we were doing this gig. We had two or three sets, I think. each night I get out there, man, I'd be scatting on every set. And each tune that I do, after I did my scat chorus, I turn and look at him like just to see if it was a look of horror on his face. And he'd just be playing. He'd go, yeah, like that, like it was okay. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it again on the next tune, you know. But just that growth. And Shelley, who hired me initially to do jingles for him. He had a lot of television spots, a lot of radio stuff, a lot of television now, theme songs for sitcoms. And then after that, we started doing gigs together, and I had hired him, you know, for some dates. And each time he'd hire me to do any kind of recording, he would always have it in a key that I never thought I could sing. And I always say, nope, I can't do that. Just so chicken all of my life, you know, about taking a risk. And it was just, and the good thing is that he just completely ignored me, as John Clayton has done, and also Jeremy Montero. Anytime I say, I can't do it, it's too much, I can't, you know, they'd always say, okay, so here we go. Here it is, right here. One.
And I watched the Super Bass last night because I watched an interview. I was like, oh, I gotta check this out, but I'm not airing it today. But
that's exactly what I'm talking about, Max.
It was killing.
Super Bass gig. That was a television special.
Right.
With Ray Brown, Christian McBride, and John Clayton. And I had just recorded on Shelley's album called The Will. And I did I Hear Music. I recorded I Hear Music, and I sang apparently too much like Ella's arrangement. And Ray Brown stopped me in the middle of the session and said, what are you doing? You're not gonna sing it, try to sing it just like Ella, are you? That's what she sang. You can't sing that like that. I said, well, she didn't leave any notes left to sing, so I thought I'd just add a little few. And he said, no, you have to come up with something else from right now. And I had just met him, you know, 5 minutes prior to that, right? So I guess and it was Ed Thigpen on drums on that gig. And so I guess I came up with something else, and I was never so happy to be finished with it. I wanted to get away from Mr. Brown. Then I was scheduled to go to Germany to work with WDR, big band, you know, with John Clayton and the Super Bass Trio. Well, he never mentioned the Super Bass Trio was going to be on the date as well. I thought I was just doing something with John. So I got there, and there was Mr. Ray Brown, honey, right in my face again. He said, like, hi, Mr. Brown. We did this.
How old are you at this time?
Oh my God, I was grown and old. I was at least in my late 30s or 40s.
Oh, okay.
You know?
All right.
And so he said, okay, well, we're going to do the finale. So Carmen, you take a scat chorus. And then I said, oh no, I don't scat. No, Carmen doesn't scat. And I'll never forget Ray Brown said, do you think we just have you over here to just because you have a little pretty dress on and you look a little pretty in it? He said, girl, you better get in there and sing. I said, well, I'll be counting. I said, I just can't do it. I can't take the pressure. I said, so I won't be on the finale. You just introduce me and I'll bow and then I'll go backstage. And they said, no. That's why I look so crazy-eyed on that video. Because it's like, oh my God, where am I in the form? Just completely terrified and sang on top of somebody's stuff. I don't know which one you viewed, but
I saw John Riley playing a phone book on that too.
Yes.
So.
So much fun. So much fun. It's an unforgettable experience, and I'd like to forget parts of it.
So I'm embarrassed to admit this, and I'm going to remedy this. I've started the process.
Okay.
I didn't know much about Miss Melba Joyce.
Okay.
So as I started listening to her and watching some videos and stuff, I was like, oh my goodness.
She incredible.
And she is killing, but it explains so much about you. And and so I guess now, I'm going to ask about this. Here, I'll share my screen here. So I have two questions because of two of her associations.
Okay.
So there it is, one of my
That's
favorite
great.
pictures ever. So of course, Pop's my favorite musician of all time. I'll stop sharing
Aw,
that. So you know, you were 4. That was 1964,
yes,
and you say you knew who he was at the time. You knew whose lap you were sitting on.
that's
You
right.
weren't scared or anything about that. So,
That's right.
and your twin brothers are cropped out of the picture. You said
Right.
so. So, you know, as you became a professional and a musician, were there stories your mom told about him being on the road? Did she enjoy her time with him? Can we say those things here or not?
Oh,
Or
absolutely. Well, her time was it wasn't a tour. I think it was just a couple of dates
okay,
did with him, and
okay.
my dad brought us to the gig, and my dad took the photograph, and but I knew who he was. It was very
Hmm.
clear. I mean, I knew exactly who he was, and that's why my hand is laying on top of his hand like that.
Hmm.
But you know what I remember most? He picked me up like I was like a little piece of china, and sat me on his knee. It was so gentle. I remember it so clearly, you
Hmm.
know. And I remember his hands were very meaty right in here. It was kind of
Hmm.
chunky, a little fat in there, and really super soft.
Wow.
Super, super soft. And
Mm.
I think that's why I put my hand on top of his, because I thought, well, let me just, maybe the other side is like that too. You know what I mean? But he was so sweet to me, so sweet to me and my brothers, you know, my
Hmm.
brothers Keith and Carl. But just a treasured moment. But yeah, my mother is insanely bad ASS, honey.
Yes.
That serious pipe. Now that's a real jazz singer there. You know, I'm a jazz R&B singer, but she is the show enough real deal.
I was telling Rodney about this. I was like, man, I've not checked her out. He's like, man, have you heard her with a Basie band? It's
Oh,
like unbelievable. Which is my next question.
mm,
So, you know, obviously, your probably biggest associations with the Count Basie band, and so there's this lineage of Jimmy Rushing, Joe Williams, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Dennis Rowland. Anybody that would get up in front of the Basie band has to think about your spot in that lineage. But for you, it's even more different because Melba Joyce was one of those singers.
well, my
And
mother came after me though.
your mother came after you.
Right.
Oh,
Isn't that
okay.
something? Yes, she sure did. She came after me. It was me and then Chris Morrell and then Jamie Davis and then mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she
It
had
doesn't normally happen like that, but
been
as long as you get there, right?
right. So, you know, the story you said a million times on how you got the gig and all the stuff that led up to it and everything that happened once you got the gig and all that kind of stuff. So, and, you know, knowing that I mean, at some points, you just have to go do your thing and you can't worry about, I just got to be me. You've told the stories about Freddie Green and you're singing too many runs and all this kind of stuff. Um, were you were you always conscious? Like, were you always pinching yourself every night, or did you get used to the routine and I'm the bassy vocalist, or were you like, man, Jimmy Rushing was standing here and Joe Williams was standing
Oh
here?
man, oh man. There was no getting used to it. Every time I performed with them, um, even when Mr. Basie, you know, I worked with Mr. Basie for a year prior to his death, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, Danny Turner was still alive, Booty Woods, Chris Woods, Eric Dixon, Freddie Green, of course, and you know, a lot of the cats, Cleve Eaton on bass. Dennis McCrow was the drummer when I first got the job, and he had just gotten the job maybe a month or two prior to me because Joe Williams had recommended him.
Wow.
Yeah, so it
Wow.
was it was something, and I never had a comfortable night where, you know, and I only knew two standards really all the way through, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was a lot of pressure. Mr. Basie was very kind and very patient with me, and it helped a lot because you know Dennis Rowland was the singer when I joined the band. So I did the first half, and then of course Dennis would come on and do the second half. But I didn't sing for it maybe a month,
Mhm.
maybe 6 weeks. I didn't sing because my arrangements had to be written,
Right.
right? So I just what Mr. Basie just told me to watch the show every night and watch what Dennis does, and don't be trying to sing. No, don't be trying to take too many bows, a long bow, so you'll milk the audience to get an encore. Dennis used to do that sometimes. Yes, you did, Dennis Rowland. But
He's in Phoenix, right? Arizona now?
yes, yes,
I was out up
doing
there
great.
once.
Yeah. But what a great singer. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Pipes for days. And what a great showman. Just a real entertainer, you know?
Okay,
Um,
well, that was one of my questions. So I didn't. Wait, I'll let you finish. I'm sorry for
well,
interrupting
I
you.
was just gonna say I never got really comfortable, even after, I'd sing a chorus and then there was a solo section and I always turned either to look at Freddie, like how was that? You know, because he definitely did not hesitate to tell me, you can't be throwing all those Aretha Franklin runs and riffs in there. There's a place for you to sing. And he told me to record the following night when he couldn't take it anymore. And we listened to it together. And he said, okay, now this is where you sing. You hear that? And you just be quiet in this section. Don't say nothing. Okay, then you come back in where you're supposed to right there. And then you just going to do what you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, all right. So
Mm-hmm.
So it was a real lesson for me.
And you're still singing with them when
I do.
pre-COVID. So
Yes. And I have to mention, I'm going to bring up Wynton Marsalis because Wynton said to me after a show one night, and we must have been on the same festival, which happened, once or twice. And he
Mhm.
said, well, you have to decide what you're going to sing. You need to make up your mind what you're going to sing, Carmen, because I don't want to say, who asked you? Shut up. Oh, great wonder. But he was right, It was during the same time Freddie was saying, enough. Make up your mind what you're going to do. If you're going to swing, swing. You don't have to add all of that. It doesn't need it. And you have to remember my arrangements were written, by Eric Dixon. Dennis Wilson wrote a beautiful arrangement for me. Chico O'Farrell, Frank Foster. There were so many wonderful arrangements, and they left me so much space to do what I needed to do. And there's just a way to sing in a big band. And so once I settled down and figured out what I was supposed to do, because you have to remember, I came from singing Doobie Brothers and Shaka Khan tunes
Mhm.
on this day. And then I'm the vocalist with the Count Basie Orchestra. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'm going, what? Doing Shaka Khan tunes, and what's the band? Oh my God, I'm having a senior moment. Rolling Stones tunes, wearing Levi's and cowboy boots and sweatshirts on stage. Then the next couple of weeks, I'm like, a foggy day in London town. That's a big adjustment. It was huge. And even after I left the Basie band, it was another big adjustment because I was so used to blasting and singing over 17 instruments. And then I was working with a trio, but still pushing like that on trio dates, and I'd be exhausted by the end of the date and hoarse because I was singing so hard. Boy, you're talking about some mental pullback, trying to pull back and just relax and sing.
What
And
about
then,
orchestras? When you're singing with an orchestra, is it similar to a big band? Do you feel, because you're always going to be in some huge auditorium? Yes, you have amplification, but you always have to, like, I don't need to fill up this entire room, or do you need to feel? How do you approach that?
well, with the symphony dates, with working with Byron, doing the Lewis and Ella show, and then doing the Ella show of mine, um, I don't feel that I have to push that much. Though I would always love my monitor louder, only because I would like to hear myself a little more. But a lot of times they don't want the string players
Right.
don't like a lot of volume right in their face like that. So I end up, doing the mic control, vocal control that I need to work in the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I just have to go and say, I need more. I need a little more, and just bear with me. Trust me, I know how to work it and pull back. So And that's what I do. But I'm not exhausted after symphony dates. I'm exhausted from being nervous and,
Right.
making myself crazy from stage fright and stuff. But as far as the music goes, I love it. But, and I leave fulfilled with those concerts as well. I love it. It's an audience that never would hear me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That symphony audience and those tickets that are purchased just for years in advance, those season ticket holders, a lot of that audience is never going to hear the Basie Band. So to be there and bring that to them, and I've added, at least Mr. Paganini in there, so they at least get a little bit of Ella scatting. You know what I mean?
Right.
Scatting, a little bit of improvisation in there. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Something that I've been changed as a youngster, my heroes all were about the music. When you're a jazz musician, you play for yourself first, you play for the other musicians, and then there's an audience. That you also, and I didn't really care. I mean, I just play what I want to play, But then there's always these debates of, are you an entertainer or are you a musician? And I was like, I'm a musician. I am not an entertainer. I don't want to be an entertainer. That's not why I went into this music. I love this music, But then, I started thinking about my hero, Louis Armstrong. I was like, wait, he was like the greatest entertainer of all time. Everybody in the entire world, they stopped a war for him, And so, and it usually gets put on a vocalist because you're up in front, you're the image. It's an image in addition to the musicality of things. And it's interesting to me to hear, that you get nervous and stuff. I mean, it never shows because you come out, you do your thing, you look like you have complete command, and you're bad. And, it's such a beautiful experience. Nobody really knowing that you're. So how do you teach your students about stage presence? How do you view yourself as an entertainer in addition to a musician, or how are there separate thoughts, or is all one thing?
It's all one thing. It's all one thing. And I think the more frightened I am, the more I chat. To say that, but it's true. But it tends to calm me down a little bit, I care a little bit about, if I'm paying tribute to Ella, then I share a bit more. And even, when it's not an Ella show, I don't chat a lot on the Basie Band gig because there's just not a lot of time. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're coming to hear me swing and those 4 to 5 or 6 tunes, and that's it. It's like, move on, next, And I don't mind that,
Sure.
I like to hit it. It's like hitting it hard and then going, okay, that was it,
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to entertain as well. I like to tell stories.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, you're almost as famous for your stories as you are your singing. And that's hard to do. I heard a story in an interview last night at about 2 a.m. as I was researching things that I had never heard you tell before. And I was like, this is funny, but I didn't hear how it ended. So taking you back a minute, your college story, how you had the audition and you got home to your parents. So could you share that story? And then like, how long, what I don't know is you got to school, but I don't know how long you got there and what got you away or if you finished or what. So.
Now, what do you mean by my college story? You mean how I got to college? How I ended up?
But that you weren't planning on it and it was suddenly revealed that you were going to college.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I went to Pasadena High School. I graduated. And my father got me a car for graduation. So I was hanging out all summer. He said, you have to get a job. You cannot just, I said, well, I'm going to be singing background for Stevie Wonder. Very soon I'll have an audition with him and I know he's going to hire me. This is when he was making Hotter Than July.
Okay.
that album. And
Okay.
he had great background singers, man. Oh my God. And the music on that album was just on fire, right? So
Mhm.
anyway, I didn't get the gig. And so I was hanging out with my girlfriends, going to the beach every day, Santa Monica, and pardon me. And so I came home one day from my mini hangs, and my mother's car was in my dad's driveway. I was living with my dad at the time. My mom was living in Los Angeles. So her car was in the driveway, and I went in the house and I said, "Hey, Mom." And she said, "Hey, how you doing?" My dad said, "Hey, Carm, have a seat." And I said, "Well, what's going on?" And they said, "Well, uh, did you find a job yet? Or are you working with Stevie Wonder now, or what's going on?" I said, "Well, I didn't get it, but I'm going to be looking into something else, and something's going to come up soon." And he said, "Well, your mom and I don't think anything is going to come up soon, and you can't just go to the beach every day and expect me to just give you money every day to go hang out with your friends." He said, "So we've decided that you're going to go to college, the college that I went to in Austin, Texas." And I was just like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, we've already called the president. His name is Dr. King. And he said that we can just send you on down there tonight. So you're leaving tonight on a red eye. And your mom's going to take you to the mall now. And she's going to get you some winter clothes and, some spring clothes and everything. And we'll see you, at Thanksgiving." This is June.
Wow.
No, this is August,
Hmm.
end of August. And I was like, "There's no way. I'm not going to Texas tonight." No. They said, "Well, yeah, you are." I said, "Well, what about my car?" My dad said, "Well, you can't have a car at school. It'll be here when you get back. So go on to the mall with your mom. I'm going to put your little tiny TV in this trunk that I just bought you at the hardware store around the corner. And we'll, put your other stuff in there. And you're getting on that plane tonight." I said, "Well, I don't like this. And I don't really like either one of you." They said, "That's okay. You're going." So I got on the plane that night. I was fussing the whole time. And when I was boarding the plane, my dad said, "Well, listen here. We still have a lot of friends in Austin, which is a good thing for you." And he said, "I don't want you to be singing in any clubs. You need to go there and study. I know you want to sing, but I said, "Well, I'll just go." He said, "Well, you need to get some A's and you need to get a scholarship. So do well on Monday." Now, this was Saturday night. "Do well on Monday at your audition because we need you to get a scholarship too while you're there." So I said, I don't think I said anything. I was just ready to go, just mad.
Hmm.
So I got to school. It was, no, I landed in Austin. Some of my mom's friends were there to pick me up. It was, I don't know, it was really early in the morning because my flight was at 11 p.m. And so I got there and I got to the dorm. And when I stepped out of the car, there were just these giant flying roaches, those giant water bugs that fly, just everywhere. And the humidity and the heat was just unbearable. And it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was just stifling, horrible, right? So I get to the dorm and these bugs are flying all around my leg. I was like, oh my God. And then they said, "Welcome, welcome to Houston Tillotson College. And we have your dorm key here for you. Just sign in." And then they put me in a dorm that had no air conditioning. Just
Oh
raised the
my
window
goodness.
with the screen on it.
Oh no.
I said, "You gotta be kidding." It was absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. And soon after that, I moved to the air conditioned dorm. But man, I met some of the most beautiful women I have ever met in my life. It changed
Hmm.
my life. You know how you go away to school and you make a lot of friends. And
Hmm.
um, I did get a scholarship. But that first Friday night, they said, "We're going to the club down the street. There's a club down the street called Phases, and we have some cigarettes, and we are going to drink some margaritas. Do you want to go?" I said, "Yeah, I want to go." And so I went to the club with them. I was so excited because the legal age for drinking was still 18 in the state of Texas in 1978. So I went in there and had my first margarita, and honey, you couldn't tell me nothing, and puffing on cigarette, just loving every second of it. I can still remember that. So you walk in this club called Phases, right? And to the right, there's this disco and all these beautiful people in there. And then you look to the left, and walking down this hallway, there was a restaurant that was right in the middle of the club. And then you walk through these like saloon doors, and then there was a jazz club in there. Man, I said, oh yeah, this is it. So I immediately introduced myself to Warren Dixon, who was the owner and manager, one of the owners and managers of Phases. And I told him I had just come off of a gig with Stevie Wonder, and that I was now a student at Houston Tillotson because I wanted to get my music degree. And I said, and I would love to sit in, and I'd love to sing here. And I said, can I sit in? And he said, sure, honey. So he spoke to the guy that was working. His name was Lou Coban. And so Lou let me sit in, and it was so much fun. Oh my God. I felt so grown up, you know, away from my parents and just out smoking cigarettes and drinking margaritas. It was the life. And the roaches, the big giant water bugs. So I then asked him, I said, well, can I sing on Wednesday nights at your happy hour? And he said, well, why are you choosing Wednesday night? I said, because I have to study, and your happy hour is early enough for me to get back to the dorm. So he said, okay, we'll try you out. So that's how I got started. And then I met some other people and sang at some other clubs too. I went and sat in, you know, at as many clubs as I could after that. But Phases was my first gig. And it was so much fun. And so that following Sunday, I got a call from my parents because they called me on Sunday, and my mom said, well, how's it going? I said, it's horrible. I hate it. And I can't believe that you guys I was having a ball, really. But I told them that I hated it, and I would never forgive them for sending me there. So she said, well, I think you might be enjoying it. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, you know what? Some friends of mine were at a club.
Oh, no.
And they said that there was a girl in there that looked just like your dad. I said, well, there aren't any clubs around here. She said, well, I don't know where it is. She said, but there was a girl in there that was singing, and she looked just like your daddy. She said, and I said, I told her that couldn't have been Carmen. Carmen knows better. She shouldn't be singing in no clubs. And we said she couldn't sing in any clubs. She's forbidden to do that. Supposed to be focusing on her studies. And I said, well, that's right, because it wasn't me. It was not me. And she said, okay, well, I told her that because, you know, you'd really be in trouble with me if it was you. I said, well, okay, like, whatever. You know, since, you know, it's amazing how kids will be such smart ASSs when their parents are that far away and can't reach through the phone, you know.
Right.
Well, that went on for a couple of weekends where each weekend, you know, either my dad would call or my mom, and the next call was from my dad. And he said, well, it's amazing that, you know, my friends seem to be hearing some singer that looks like you and sounds like you. I said, well, how do they know what I sound like? They said, well, let's just say maybe they sound like your mother. I said, well, it wasn't me. And then a couple of weekends passed again, and I finally said, okay, well, it is me, and I'm not quitting. I said, I'm here and I'm making my own money. I don't need to answer to you guys, and I'm on scholarship, and I don't need to answer. They said, well, you do realize you have to come home, don't you? All this stuff you're talking on the phone. Oh, why can't I sing? What's the big deal? And they finally said, okay, well, you know, you can keep your grades up, but if your grades drop, Carm, it's got to stop. Child, please, that was never going to stop.
Right.
You know? But yeah, that's what happened when I went down there, and they shipped me off in the middle of the night.
So how long did you spend at the college?
I stayed at HT. It was the end of my sophomore year when I met Mr. Basie, but I took a break in there This
Okay.
is fuzzy to me because I can't remember, but I took a break. But I left finally at the end of my sophomore year, and that's when I opened for Mr. Basie and told him he'd make $1 million if he'd hire me.
Right. And did your parents then finally give their blessing to you, or were they still mad you didn't finish?
Well, I think once when I called my parents and told them, I said, I just got the job as a vocalist with the Count Basie Orchestra. I wasn't really looking for them to say, oh, well, Carmen, don't take it. Stay there and finish school. They knew I was never going to do that.
Right.
Never.
Right.
So they said, Carmen, really? That's great. Later on down the line, my mother said, well, are you going to go back to school? I said, when? And I'm on tour 45 weeks a year. When do you suggest I go? But you can study online, but I didn't see how I was going to be able to do that.
Right.
I'd like to, but I'd like to get my degree in interior design.
Right. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. A couple more things, and I'll let you go here. I haven't heard too many stories about this one.
What's that?
Share my screen.
Ooh. Oh, this is so awful.
Sorry. Oops. Oh, you know what? I didn't. I'm gonna have to skip forward a bit just for time.
Key Largo, alone in Key Largo, how empty it seems with only my dreams. Strange cargo may come to Key Largo, but where is the face my heart won't erase?
Sacrilegious to turn that off, but for the sake of time, how did that come about? How did you meet Benny Carter? Was he in the studio when you were there? Or how did that all work?
Lou Rawls got sick.
Oh.
And I was just in the right place at the right time, and I was recommended, and he said, let's get her. Let's grab her. And I also sang with Kenny Rankin. All that jazz.
Okay.
That's the other tune on that album.
Right.
I can't believe I sang 2 tunes on a Benny Carter album. Though I'd known him when I was a little girl because he and my parents were friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I never,
Right.
It's one of those where, Carmen, come in here. Carmen, this is Mr. Carter, and this is my little girl, Carmen. He was like, hi.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? One of those. So I didn't really get to spend any time with him. I think my mom took me with her one time to his house once when I was a little girl, and it was like, okay, who is it? Oh, so sorry.
Well, that's all right.
I think that was my alarm for you. I don't know why
Oh.
it's so late. But it was just one of those where, like on many occasions where we went to people's homes that were just unbelievably famous, where I was like playing with my Barbie's hair. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, beautiful.
Yeah.
This next one is a more recent one, and it's to me a little different from what you do. And the way it sounds to me, this seems like this would be so incredibly hard to sing. And to me, it says so much about you, your intonation and it's unbelievable. I'm gonna play a little bit of this and let you talk about this. And it was virtual, which to me probably made it a little bit harder too, but you can tell me. Here we go.
The window never ending. A flower and trees and little pathways all descending to the garden far below us, the pavilions in the sunlight, where the peacocks proudly grace the sea. A vision.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
You talk about something hard.
That is just dumb. And you absolutely nail this. I mean, everything about this, I just hear you got this extended, huge range. You got leaps going up and down, and you're like nailing everything and soulful and musical, and you make it look flawless. To me, it's just like this talks about your greatness, this tune. How hard was it? How hard was it to do virtual?
Oh, freaking hard.
And I have to say, another Michigan State connection, Professor Michael D's on this recording too. So
Is he unbelievable or what?
he's the same
Oh.
thing. Unbelievable.
You know what? This was not done virtually. The reason Vance Thompson is waving like that is because I'm in the booth in front of him.
Are you serious?
But the monitor had to be big. It was
Mm,
a television monitor in the sound booth with me. It was a studio that wasn't completed yet. So I was
okay.
in that sound booth, and the sound man was in the room with all the guys, but he was waving like this because the monitor had to be so big in order for me to see his hands, since I couldn't.
Hearing you talk, I know you don't like doing that type of thing anyways in a studio, right?
Well, you know what? It's the only way I've ever recorded.
Right.
I've only recorded live like that.
Okay.
So though I'm used to it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. Even when I did my small group stuff, you know, like with Cedar Walton on that album, Find Me Yours,
Mm-hmm.
Donald Brown and everybody, I recorded live then too, but now I prefer not to record. It's just too much pressure, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was so glad that I was finally separated, and since they separated me, they could have a separate track. So
Sure.
but there were just 3 notes that I sang out of tune, so we were able to correct those. But man, you talk about hard, and I didn't have a lot of, well, I guess it was a normal amount of, I won't say normal, but it was an amount of time for me to learn that, because I hadn't ever heard that tune. I had never heard the Peacocks.
Okay.
So once Van, and the key was a little high for me too.
Okay.
But once I heard it, I heard some other singers singing it, and I heard instrumental versions of it, you know, and it was so beautiful, but I was terrified. I said, man, you gotta be kidding. I can't sing that like I normally do, you know.
Yep.
Oh
And then you nail it.
my God. So I drove to Knoxville.
Okay.
I checked in the hotel, right? Drove from Atlanta to Knoxville. In the hotel, I had been in the hotel maybe 20 minutes, and Vance said, we're ready for you, come on over. It was like,
Oh no.
no nap, nothing. Allergies, it was during allergy season. My asthma was kicking up, and it was just pressure, you know. But we did a couple of takes, and, you know, I think that's all I had in me.
Mm-hmm.
A couple.
But when
Knock on wood.
I first heard that, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, and again, I understand like the complexities of how, I mean, I just trying to think about playing trumpet on that and me chipping the notes and going over this stuff. And it just like, man, you have vocalists trying to do this. And I just, like I just sat and looked at my screen when I heard that the first time, and I was just like, what just happened? That was one of the most beautiful things ever. And she nailed this. And, okay, I got to go back and listen now again.
I was so worried about my pitch, and I worried Donald Brown and Vance Thompson just up to here. I said, okay, now check my pitch again. Check it, make sure it's okay. sure? Am I in tune? It was
Just
hard.
beautiful. Just
Thank you
beautiful.
so much.
Congratulations.
I love that, and it was so, so very hard. But the reason that I'm standing in front of that curtain singing along with that is that it didn't occur to us to videotape me in the booth.
Okay. All right.
So he wanted to make this video so we could post it on YouTube like everybody else is doing with their bands, you know. So he said, just sing along. I'm going to send you this. Just sing along with the track.
Okay. Okay.
You know, so I added that curtain and acted like that was the booth, and there we
Right.
go. But I was really singing it. I was there in
Oh,
person for that. There's no
amazing.
way I would have tried to do that virtually. No way.
Wow.
That tune is a beat.
Killing.
Thank
Just
you.
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Wrapping up, I know I'm gonna play something for you here, and then you can talk to me about this and the future, because I know something's on the horizon with this.
Okay.
Well, see right, see the moon shining bright, see the moon shining bright, see right, see right. Won't you look and see that moon shining bright? But just to walk with you makes everything alright. Well, I won't be back, baby. No, I won't be back till fall. Won't be back till fall. Going away, pretty baby, but I won't be back till fall. Won't be back till fall. And if I find me a girl with me, I won't bring me back.
Mm.
So it's sentimental for a few reasons, because
Wow.
recently we just lost the drummer on that track. And
Who's the drummer on that track?
think
Oh,
it
you
was
mean Duffy.
Duffy.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
But you know, just an incredible moment, I'm sure, for you. And I know that your thing you're working on, from the last I knew, is a tribute. Is there anything you can tell us, or is that still under wraps a little bit, other than it's happening?
I don't know where my phone is, but it's going to stop in a minute.
Okay.
That project, my Nancy Wilson tribute project, which I haven't been discussing because I've had to put it on hold. My finances, my financiers fell through, 2 of them. The third one, it was like an almost, and then it wasn't. So I guess until I can pay for that, I'm just going to put it on hold. And, you know, by then maybe somebody else is probably going to come out with it. But
Well, maybe somebody will be watching this and want to finance it. So
well,
let's
she
trust
is
for that.
very dear to me. And, you know, I've got another project coming up. Someone has asked me to do a tribute album to someone, to another singer. I'm trying so hard not to be the tribute singer. You know what I mean?
And I want you to do a Stevie one, so add that one.
I'm trying so hard not to be that
Right.
singer. But I couldn't turn this opportunity down. And I'll share that with you after
Great.
this is over. I'm not ready to share that yet, but
Sure.
it's really going to be quite a project.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, sir. And it's a big band project too.
Okay.
And
Beautiful.
it's really exciting, and I'm nervous about it because the artist that they want to pay tribute to is really huge, and yikes.
You're
So
Carmen Bradford. What else do you need to say?
you are too kind, Carmen.
Well, I'm just going to mention a couple of our connections. Chelsea Tipton. When was the last time? He was the orchestra teacher at Central Michigan, where I went, and I wasn't in orchestra at the time, but he was conducting when I was in college there, and I knew that he had played on Winton's Eastman Wind Ensemble Carnival CD, so I wanted to get you play clarinet on it and stuff.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
but I absolutely loved him in the short time he was there, and try to keep in touch with him. But I know you've done some stuff with him, right?
I love him so much.
Isn't he
I
amazing?
adore him.
Yeah.
What a beautiful spirit, right? What a
Yes.
beautiful human being.
Yep.
I just love him.
And
It
then
was
a
just
singer
wonderful.
that I feel very similar about, that I got to hang with a little bit a few years ago, that I know you've done something with and would love to see a collaboration again, is Kenny Washington.
Oh, so
What,
wonderful.
what was the last thing you did with? You did something recently, or I mean, pre-COVID.
Well, that's the only time I performed with him.
Okay.
With Washington, the singer you're
You're
speaking
right.
of.
Right.
That was in Singapore with Jeremy Montero.
Oh, okay.
I told you about. We did Porgy and Bess.
Oh, wow.
And wow, man, he's
But I feel like you guys are like
incredible.
same kind of mold.
I think
you know?
so.
You just sit there and sing a whole note for me. I just want to hear you guys sing whole notes, man. I'll
Oh, goodness. Is he wonderful or what?
dripping with soul.
I just adore him. Just adore him. And I was really hoping to get to see him more. You know, I teach at San Francisco Conservatory of Music.
Right.
And I'm the director of jazz vocal studies there as well, as being a teacher there. And but I never get to see Kenny. There's never time to even call and say, "Hey, how you doing? Let's go have breakfast." Or, you know, my schedule is just so tight. But yeah, I'd love to work with him again.
Yeah.
Love that.
Beautiful. Well, you've been so gracious. Before we leave, can you talk about the duo that you're going for our concert that we're going to be airing during this weekend? Talk to me about that.
I'm excited. That project, that concert is with Shelley Berg, jazz pianist Shelley Berg. For those who are not familiar with him, he is absolutely incredible, and he's the one that I recorded Home With You. It's just the two of us on that album, and hopefully we're going to do a part 2 to that.
Oh,
but yeah, the concert is with him, and I'm so looking forward to working with him. He's coming into Atlanta.
Okay.
And yeah, and we're going to record in my living room.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Perfect.
We haven't done anything in just forever. I think the last time we performed together was on the jazz cruise, and I was sick the entire time. And people were asking me to move away from them when they'd see me coming. I was so seasick. It was just awful.
That's unfortunate.
So, but I cannot wait. I have no idea what we're going to do. Probably some things off of the Home With You album, and probably some new things. And I just wrote, I've had writer's block for about 30 years. And I finally wrote, I'm serious. And I finally wrote a song.
Oh, great.
It's an instrumental, and I absolutely love it. And Shelley's writing an arrangement of it, and I'm so excited.
Oh, I cannot wait.
So excited.
So cool. So cool. Well, we are so happy to have you, even if it's virtual. It's not the same as you being here, but we'll get you here next year or something. Well, soon enough. And stay safe, stay encouraged. Thank you so much for being a part of our Jazz Spectacular.
Thank you.
Your family.
I love you. I adore you. And let's do a car ride.
Sounds good. All right. Carmen Bradford, everyone. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you for taking the time to tune in and join us for this event. We look forward to the day when we can once again welcome you safely to our venues in person for the magic of live concerts. As patrons who have enjoyed the talents of faculty, students, and visiting artists, you are an important part of our music community, and you have supported us in so many ways. Of course, we welcome your financial support as we navigate this challenging time. See the links included on this page should you wish to make a secure credit card donation. Thank you for joining us today and for helping us make the power of music accessible. Together, we can make a difference.